I don't know.
Okay, so got my daughter here for this one. How old are you?
8.
8. You like to sing?
Sort of.
Sorry. What do you like to sing? Well,
Songs.
What kind of music do you like? What do you like to listen to? Who are you gonna go with Mom to see?
Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber. What did you sing at the talent show last year?
Taylor Swift's Love Story.
Taylor Swift's Love Story. So you like Justin Bieber. You like Taylor Swift. Who else do you like?
Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj. You ever listen to any 12-tone stuff?
No.
Ever listen to any Schoenberg?
No.
Oh. Do you like when Daddy plays Daddy music?
No.
No, you don't like that stuff.
No.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna sing this little tune. Okay?
I'm
Ready?
scared.
Yeah, me too. I'm scared too. It's scary. Okay, ready? Here we go. The sound is in D minor, now we're somewhere else. Here we go to be. Let's do it again in case anyone wants to sing along. Okay, one more time. Here. Ready, go. The sound is in D minor, now we're somewhere else. Here we go to be. All right. Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now give me my $1. Thank you.
Look. So, hope you all recognized that little tune. It was, of course, the main theme from the fourth string quartet, first movement, fourth string quartet of Arnold Schoenberg. It's a catchy little tune. It also happens to be a 12-tone row. What the heck is a 12-tone row? Well, I bet a lot of you know what that means. And I bet those of you who are at all familiar with Schoenberg know that he composed some of his music, not all of it, using the 12-tone method. Some of you, maybe that's the only thing you know about Schoenberg, is that he was a 12-tone composer. I would submit that there's a little bit more to him than that. But it is true that he did invent the 12-tone method. The 12-tone method is a technique. It's a compositional tool where you take all of the notes in the chromatic scale, of which there are 12, and instead of playing them all in a row like that, you order them in a specific way so that you can use it as a melody or as harmony. And there are some very specific rules and guidelines as to what one is expected to do if you're using the 12-tone method. The first rule is, generally speaking, once you've played one of the notes in the row, you are not supposed to play that note again until you've been through all the other 11 notes in the row. So, for example, in this one, okay, so that's 12 notes, that's the row. Once I've gone like this C sharp here, I'm not supposed to play that one again until I get all the way through. So I shouldn't do that. Okay, don't do that. That's bad. Don't do that. Okay. Now Schoenberg breaks this rule all the time, but generally speaking, as a guideline, you shouldn't do that. Why you shouldn't do that? That's more than I want to get into right now. A lot of people say, well, that's unnatural. You shouldn't just have this, these rules like this that say you can't repeat this note till you've gotten through all 12 of them. Then you can play your C sharp again. You should be able to play your C sharp if you hear a C sharp. If your ear tells you to play C sharp, you should play C sharp. This is artificial. It's just math. Well, yeah, maybe. It's restrictive. I'll give you that. I would say that most musical methods require a degree of restriction. Whether if you're writing a fugue, there's some stuff you can't do. Even if your ear tells you that this would sound really cool, if you're writing a fugue, you're not supposed to do that. If you do, people are going to say you wrote a bad fugue. Or if you're writing sonata form, which has been twisted and warped every which way. But still, if you want to call something a sonata, you're supposed to do some things, and you're not supposed to do other things. People break those rules all the time, but you know they're still there. If you're playing the blues, you know there's stuff you can't do if you're playing the blues. People will tell you it's not a blues if you're if you do certain notes at certain times. Some people will tell you you're doing it wrong. And sometimes it'll sound really wrong too. 12-tone method to me isn't too much different from that. It is a method. It's a tool. You don't want to use it, don't use it. Schoenberg never said you have to use the 12-tone method. He only taught it to a few students, only to students who were generally his most advanced. If you could do counterpoint and everything else, traditional harmony really well, then maybe if you were lucky he would teach you 12-tone. He was pretty reluctant to teach it. So, you know, and he never said, despite what you may have heard, you can even point to certain quotes which would suggest this, but he never said that he wanted to replace traditional tonality with 12-tone. I know people are going to argue with me about that, but go ahead and argue. I don't care. Anyway, so there's even more rules than that to the 12-tone method. Obviously, just doing the same 12 notes over and over and over, that's going to get boring. So, to kind of promote variety, well, there's different versions of the row. You can play it backwards. So instead of going from the first note to the 12th, you go from the 12th to the first. And then you can also play it upside down. It's called the inversion. So instead of going, I could go. Okay, so it's upside down. That's called the inversion. Backwards is retrograde, upside down is inversion. And then you can also do it backwards and upside down at the same time. That's called retrograde inversion. So you have 4 different versions of the row. And that's what you use to base your composition on. Oh my God, it's so complicated! Well, yeah, you know, writing music is complicated. And it's restrictive. But it's used for musical reasons. Or at least, I'll put it this way. He tried to make these things audible. Schoenberg did, anyway. You know, can you hear, every time the row is played, can you hear the row? Certainly not. And I don't think he wanted you to. I don't think you're supposed to listen to Schoenberg and say, oh, there's the row, there's the inversion. No, you're not supposed to hear that. But you can hear little relationships in the notes going on. You know, for example, there's a point in the near the end of the first movement of this quartet where the cello goes, and then I think it's the viola goes. He plays the inversion, like right after, okay? So he wants you to hear that. He also takes this melody and he chops it up into little bits. You know, so you'll hear him go da da ba 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 da 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 ba ba beep ba 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 ba, and you know he chops it up into little pieces, little cells like that. To me, it reminds me of Beethoven. In Beethoven, they call it foreshortening, where he'll take part of his theme and just slice it up into smaller and smaller pieces until you've just got this little bit that he's working with, and it gets really suspenseful that way. Schoenberg, I feel, does kind of the same thing. And he wants it to be recognizable. I mean, my 8-year-old daughter sang that 12-tone row. Why was she able to sing it? Well, for one thing, we put words to it. But honestly, getting the words in there was actually harder for her than singing the melody. Those words came from a teacher of mine. He makes it recognizable by putting rhythm to it, by giving it a specific contour, so that every time that theme comes in that piece, you can latch onto it and identify with it. Now, when he has these other forms, the retrograde and the inversion, can you recognize that that's the row in its original form, just inverted? No, you can't. Unless these certain places where he's really trying to bring out that relationship, usually you can't hear that. So what then? Well, you have another tune. If you have a row and invert it, you have a new tune. And you treat it differently, give it a different rhythm, or you can give it the same rhythm to let everyone hear that it's you're working on the same thing. But these are the kind of things that I feel Schoenberg is trying to communicate with us. I don't think he wants you to hear these deep, complicated relationships. a lot of what I find enjoyable listening to Schoenberg is right there on the surface. He likes to make these funky little tunes. You know, they're twisty. You know, they don't fit in C major or you know A flat minor or whatever. You know, they're very highly chromaticized. They're not tonal, which means they don't you know fit in a key. But he makes them work. You know. And some people say, well, you know, you could take any random 12 notes and, you know, if you mess with it, make it work. Well, yeah, you probably could. And, you know, if you think you can do better, I say this all the time, you know, if you think you know, if you think you're a pretty good composer, go ahead and give it a try, you know. Can you write something in this style that's as good or better, that people can relate to? Maybe you can. I can't. I've tried. I can't. So let me know what you think. Leave your comments in the comment section, and I'd love to know above all what you're hearing. Oh, almost forgot. Here's an example of Schoenberg trying to make these things clear to the listener. The third movement of this piece, the Adagio. It starts out with all four instruments of the quartet playing in unison. It's really cool. It's like this. Okay, so he plays the row in the original form. Now, do you recognize that? I hope so. It jumped out at me right away the first time I heard this piece. He takes and he turns that into. Okay, slows it down, turns it into an Adagio. So that's cool. And then the quartet plays a whole bunch of stuff for a couple of minutes, and then they stop. That's the first half of the movement, and then he writes this. What's that? That's the inversion. Okay. And plays the inversion, and then he plays the second half of the movement. So he wants us to hear these things. You know, he's literally bending over backwards to kind of show us what he's trying to communicate, and it's these neat little tunes, interesting harmonies. You know, that you look for when you listen to any piece of music. You know, when you listen to a late Beethoven string quartet, you know, it requires some effort on the part of the listener. But if you put the effort in, there's stuff there. You don't have to be a super genius to hear what's going on. I feel the same way about Schoenberg. If you put in the effort, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. You know, I taught my 8-year-old daughter to sing that melody. It took about 4 minutes. You know. And I first, you know, the teacher that showed me that, it was in a class almost 20 years ago, and I've never forgotten it. And I haven't heard that piece very much since then. I heard it in class. We didn't even get to hear the whole thing. I was kind of disappointed. And he didn't talk really much at all about the piece, other than he kind of showed us this melody and said, "Isn't this a nice melody?" And then just went on to something else. But I always remembered that melody, and then about a month ago, I bought the recording of these quartets, and I thought, oh man, there is that melody. It sounds great. So, okay, listen to it. There should be a link somewhere on this video. Click it, listen to it, and come back here and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear any thoughts or comments you have.